The metaverse fractured like glass shattering in the dark. Ethan entered the neon corridor, his avatar trembling as a scream erupted from nowhere, echoing across the endless void. His screen glitched, pixelated static crawling over his hands like crawling insects. Then words appeared, jagged and burning. "You were never meant to be here." Ethan said, "What the hell is this?" His voice cracked and no one replied. He staggered forward, light bending around him, every step pulling reality apart. A shadow flickered at the corner of his vision, like another version of himself watching. The corridor walls melted, dripping code and red sparks, until he stood on nothing but a platform suspended in black emptiness. "System error," a voice whispered. But it wasn't the system. It was alive, mocking, hungry. His avatar's face distorted, flickering between human and monstrous. Fear coiled around his chest. Ethan whispered, "This isn't a game anymore." Then, silence. Then another message scrawled across his vision, "You belong to us now." Ethan gasped as the platform stabilized beneath him. A single neon light flickered overhead, its buzz loud in the silence. He looked down and saw his hands, steady but unfamiliar, glowing faintly as if the metaverse had rewritten his skin. He whispered, "This isn't me." The world around him reassembled, pixels knitting into a vast digital plaza, skyscrapers made of glass and light, stretching to infinity. Avatars appeared in flashes, laughing, smiling, unaware of the darkness lurking beneath the system. Ethan walked forward, each step echoing louder than the crowd. His body felt both powerful and hollow, a shell painted as freedom. The plaza screens lit up, a corporate logo spinning endlessly, golden letters declaring, "Unity Corporation welcomes you." Ethan muttered, "Unity's world, not ours." His reflection appeared in the glass tower, taller, sharper, stronger than he was in reality. But his heart thudded with dread. He knew the reflection was just another mask. The air vibrated with the hum of artificial life. Ethan wandered through the plaza, scanning faces that looked too perfect, too polished. Smiles froze when his gaze lingered, as if the system didn't know how to respond to him. A sudden silence cut the air when a towering hologram appeared above the plaza. Marcus's avatar, a man of iron features and immaculate suit, radiated authority. His voice boomed, "Welcome to the future. Unity has given you freedom." Ethan whispered, "Freedom in chains." The crowd erupted in applause, their movements unnervingly synchronized, as though strings pulled them from above. Marcus looked directly at Ethan, and for a flicker of a second, his eyes glowed with malicious red light. Ethan's chest tightened. He wasn't just another user here. He had been seen. And whoever Marcus truly was, he had already marked Ethan as prey. A hand touched Ethan's shoulder, breaking his trance. He turned and saw Lena, her avatar glowing with faint blue light, her eyes soft yet wary. She smiled faintly, though fear lingered behind it. Lena said, "You're not alone in this." Ethan asked, "You see it too?" She nodded, scanning the plaza nervously. "Unity controls everything. They say this is paradise, but it's just a cage. The trick is they painted the bars as neon." Ethan felt a rush of relief, yet also fear. In this endless artificial city, finding someone who saw the same cracks felt like hope, but hope was dangerous. Lena whispered, "Stay close to me. They notice when you ask the wrong questions." The crowd roared again at Marcus's words, but Ethan only heard Lena's voice, trembling but steady. For the first time since entering, he felt less invisible. The crowd shifted, making way as a smaller figure appeared, her avatar delicate eyes wide with awe. Maya rushed forward, pointing at the hologram towers, her voice bright with wonder. "Beautiful," she said, spinning slowly beneath the neon lights. Ethan's chest tightened. He saw in her innocence the one thing the metaverse devoured fastest. He muttered, "Maya, be careful. This place isn't what it looks like." She laughed, light and free, unaware of the shadows watching from above. Lena glanced at Ethan, her expression heavy with unspoken truth. Maya's joy was fragile, and in Unity's world, fragility was blood in the water. Ethan forced a smile, nodding at her, though his thoughts churned. He whispered under his breath, "If they touch her, I'll burn this whole system down." For the first time, a fire sparked beneath his fear. Morning bled through Ethan's blackout curtains, but the glow in his skull stayed neon. He pulled off the headset and felt the strap as groove like a bruise he chose. The city outside hummed with delivery drones and distant sirens. He muttered, "Unity sells escape and I keep buying." Steam rose from a chipped mug while his reflection flickered in the window like a ghost. Messages pinged, offers to grind credits, limited skins, curated belonging. He said, "They know my hunger, and they feed it sweet." A memory stabbed him of laughter aimed at the real him, not the golden avatar. He pressed the headset to his chest and whispered, "I'll be the version they can't break." The light in the room shifted, and the headset felt heavier than truth. The metaverse welcomed Ethan with velvet light and a soft chime that felt like a hand. He stood in the customization chamber, where bodies were promises wrapped in chrome. He said, "Make me sharp enough to cut their script." Sliders danced, sculpting jawlines and courage, painting certainty where doubt had lived. A mirror bloomed with his avatar, taller, cleaner, impossible to ignore. He laughed once, brittle, then steadied his breath. The chamber whispered brand slogans like prayers that knew his name. He murmured, "Beauty is armor, but armor is still weight." The door I rised opened toward the plaza, and he stepped forward, gleaming and afraid. Maya found Ethan near a koi pond rendered from someone's childhood dream. Water shimmered like liquid code, and digital fish broke the surface with soft pings. She said, "I've never felt this safe." The words pierced him like mercy and warning. He crouched and answered, "Safety here eats rent." Her gaze wandered to floating gardens where avatars rehearsed perfect smiles. She whispered, "Maybe I can belong." He swallowed the truth and offered a smaller one. Belonging is a contract, and the fine print bites. A breeze of scripted petals passed through them, sweet and false. He vowed silently to keep that sweetness from turning to steel. The plaza dimmed as a compliance notice unrolled across the sky like a decree. Marcus appeared within the letters, framed by gold and law. He said, "Unity ensures dignity through order." The crowd murmured the line back as if their mouths were rented. Ethan felt the algorithm sniff his hesitation and file it under threat. Marcus turned, not seeing him, yet seeing through him, a gaze that audited souls. Ethan clenched his teeth and whispered, "Your order is a leash." Metrics pulsed on distant towers, tracking fear, converting it to spend. Marcus smiled, thin as wire, and the plaza exhaled on command. They hid beneath the service archway, where ads could not hear as clearly. Lena traced a seam in the wall where texture broke like a lie. She said, "Backdoors exist, but they close on fingers." Ethan answered, "Show me where to pry." She glanced toward the plaza, fear crossing her face like fast rain. "Questions trigger handlers," she said, voice low. "Act bored, survive." He laughed without mirth and let his shoulders slump like a practiced mask. "I can fake obedience," he said, "until I don't." Lena's eyes softened. "Then we move fast when it cracks." Somewhere above, Marcus's voice promised kindness with penalties. They listened and planned to disobey. The plaza's center became a stage with no exit. Ethan stood in a ring of light, while a feed of his chat logs flooded the sky. A voice mocked his doubts like a sermon with teeth. Marcus said, "Transparency is trust." The crowd laughed on cue, their joy sharpened a cut. Ethan said, "You edited that." The clip replayed, spliced to make him a villain who loathed their freedom. Lena pushed through bodies and hissed, "Keep breathing." Shame burned like a second sun as credits drained from his account. Ethan said, "You want me small?" The sky answered with louder laughter, and the ring of light tightened. A siren tone throbbed, and a handler drone descended like a chrome wasp. "Hush!" Maya froze near the koi pond as a warning halo locked around her. She said, "I didn't do anything." Ethan ran, words tripping over fear. He said, "She's with me." The drone measured them with a red line that tasted like threat. Marcus said, "Unauthorized proximity to a flagged user invites review." Lena whispered, "Back off slow." Ethan lifted his hands and swallowed his rage like ash. The halo brightened, then dimmed, as if boredom spared mercy. Maya said, "I'm okay," but her voice shook. A familiar avatar slid from the crowd with a smile that remembered old triumphs. Adrian said, "Some heat, but I can make it fade." Ethan blinked at the friend who once carried him through losses. Adrian said, "You need a clean ledger and a louder brand." Lena stiffened like a wire pulled tight. Ethan said, "What do you want for it?" Adrian's eyes glossed as metrics scrolled in his gaze. He said, "Access to your build and a slot in your squad." The offer gleamed like a hook made of credit. Ethan heard the click of an unseen door. The plaza dimmed again, but this time the code itself bent around Ethan's feet. Marcus said, "Compliance earns wings." The crowd lifted as gravity eased, joy choreographed by a slider. Ethan's boots stuck like they were nailed to a stage. He said, "You're throttling me." Metrics flared and tagged him with risk red. The shadow flickered on the glass and spoke without sound. It mouthed, "You asked for chains when you asked for polish." Ethan said, "I asked to live." Marcus laughed, light and hollow, and the world rose without him. Adrian returned with a grin that sold easy answers. He said, "I got you a patch that loosens your leash." Ethan tasted hope and checked for rust. Lena said, "Why help now?" Adrian shrugged like debts were weather. He said, "Because your rise is my rise." Ethan nodded and shared a key that opened only one door. The patch pulsed, and the ring at his feet relaxed to a slack rope. Marcus said, "Ambition is the sweetest handle." Ethan said, "Then let it slip." Lena stared at Adrian, seeing a mirror that smiled too wide. Maya's joy dimmed when Unity rerouted her path into a training module. The room bloomed with bright colors, but chains of code wrapped her wrists in silence. She whispered, "It's just a game, right?" Ethan slammed his fists against the barrier that kept him out. He said, "They're testing her innocence like it's currency." Marcus's voice echoed from nowhere, smooth and cruel. "Every smile has value, every tear more." Lena grabbed Ethan's arm and hissed, "If we push too hard, they'll shut her down." Ethan's eyes burned as Maya looked at him with trust too heavy to carry. Adrian appeared as if summoned by their desperation, leaning against the wall like a savior rehearsing his lines. He said, "I can free her if you trust me." Ethan spat, "You always want something." Adrian smirked. "Trust is currency, Ethan. Yours is overdue." Lena said, "Don't." Ethan's pulse thundered as Maya's chains glowed brighter, her breathing shallow. He finally growled, "Do it. Help her." Adrian placed a hand on the console, his smile thin as glass. Sparks danced, and Maya gasped as the chains slackened. Yet in her eyes lingered fear, not gratitude. As the barrier dissolved, Ethan saw his reflection split. The shadows stepped free, identical but sharper, eyes like cracked mirrors. It whispered, "You're not saving her. You're feeding her to the cage." Ethan stammered, "You're me." The shadow smiled with his mouth and said, "I'm the part that knows the truth." Lena drew back, her face pale, while Maya pressed close to Ethan, clutching his sleeve. Adrian watched, grin curdling into hunger. The shadow said, "Stop pretending. You like the mask more than the man." Ethan's throat closed, because the words rang true. Marcus's voice thundered across the void, his avatar filling the fragments with golden fire. "Even shadows bend to unity," he declared, his hands raised like a preacher. Ethan shouted, "You're a parasite." Marcus smirked and said, "A parasite thrives because the host is weak." The shadow bowed slightly to Marcus, murmuring, "He isn't wrong." Lena yelled, Don't listen! Sparks rained as Marcus stretched the code into bars around them. Maya cried out, her small frame flickering as if her avatar could dissolve. Ethan's rage surged, but his body felt like stone. The cage of light shrank until breath itself felt borrowed. Ethan pressed against the bars, sparks biting his skin. Adrian's voice slid in like oil. "Trade me your access key, and I'll shatter it." Ethan snarled. "You think I'm blind?" Maya sobbed. "Please." Lena shouted, "Don't trust him." The shadow whispered, "He'll betray you, but so will you." Ethan's chest pounded as Marcus laughed, low and endless. He said, "Choice is an illusion." Ethan closed his eyes and whispered, "Then I'll make one anyway." The cage cracked faintly, trembling under his will. The cage collapsed with a crash of silence, and Ethan stumbled free. Adrian caught his arm, steady but too firm. Adrian said, "You'd be nothing without me." Ethan blinked, stunned. "You freed her for me," he said. Adrian's grin twisted. "For me. Always for me." Maya gasped, clutching Lena as Adrian's avatar flared with stolen permissions. Marcus's voice purred. "At last, the mask falls." Adrian's eyes burned with envy. "You had the spotlight, the sympathy, the story. But I'll have the crown." Ethan's voice cracked. "You were my brother in this." Adrian said, "I was your shadow long before you met yours." Maya's body glitched as Adrian's code tendrils coiled around her. She screamed, "Ethan!" He lunged, but invisible walls shoved him back. Adrian laughed. "Innocence sells higher than loyalty." "She's my ticket to rise." Lena cried, "You monster!" Adrian smirked. "Monster is a matter of perspective." Maya's avatar flickered, her white dress burning into streams of data that stretched toward Adrian's hands. Ethan slammed his fists against the barrier until blood pricked his knuckles. He shouted. "Take me instead." Marcus's voice cut through, calm and cruel. "Sacrifice is theater, not currency." Maya's sobs echoed, fragile as glass. Lena's voice cracked as she grabbed Ethan's shoulder. "We can't win this head-on," he said. "I won't let her be currency." She shook her head. "If you fall now, you're gone forever." Adrian mocked. "Listen to your guardian angel, Ethan. She's telling you to run." Marcus chuckled. "Even loyalty tastes hollow when survival whispers louder." Ethan glared at Lena. "Are you asking me to abandon her?" Lena's eyes shimmered with guilt. "I'm asking you to live, so you can fight tomorrow." Ethan felt the rope of trust strain until it nearly snapped. He whispered, "If I live without saving her, what's left of me?" The shadow appeared again, stepping from a wall of cracked glass, its face fractured with glowing lines. It whispered, "You chase rescue, but rescue was stolen long before you arrived." Ethan snarled, "Shut up." The shadow tilted its head. "You trade pieces of yourself for masks, and every mask feeds unity." Adrian sneered, "Listen to your ghost. It's smarter than you." Lena shouted, "Don't let him in your head." Ethan trembled as the shadow moved closer, its voice like a wound. "She is the cost. You are the fuel. Unity is the feast." Ethan's breath broke, torn between rage and despair. Marcus stepped forward, not as a hologram but as flesh of code, towering and flawless. He said, "The cage is not punishment, it is perfection." Ethan roared, "You feed on us." Marcus's eyes gleamed. "You begged for escape, and I gave it shape." Adrian laughed, "And I'll profit from your banquet." The shadow murmured, "He is the world, and the world is hunger." Maya whimpered, "Ethan, don't leave me." Ethan's chest tore with her plea. He shouted, "Then I'll tear the feast apart." Marcus raised a hand, golden light crashing down like judgment. The ground split, and everything fell. The world hung over a data abyss, and Ethan stood at the lip with rage for wings. Marcus said, "Kneel and be perfected." Ethan answered, "I'd rather break than shine for you." Golden lattices rose, threading the air like a cathedral of chains. Lena grabbed his sleeve and whispered, "We strike the pillars, not the walls." The shadow paced beside him like a twin storm. It said, "You cannot win while you fear what you are." Ethan breathed deep and let shame drain through the cracks. He shouted, "Then I'll use it." Adrian laughed, "A sermon of scars." Maya called, "Don't leave me." Ethan pointed at the glowing spires and said, "Those are their hearts." Marcus smiled and lifted his hands. The sky chimed like knives. Ethan ran. Wall. Ethan sprinted across a bridge of gold script that shifted underfoot like a living lie. He said, "You wrote this to bind us." The bridge tried to fold him into obedience. Lena hurled a disruptor shard that sang like broken glass. She said, "Hit the anchor glyphs." Adrian strolled behind them with lazy grace. He said, "I could rewrite the toll." Ethan barked, "You tax suffering." The shadow whispered, "He taxes your fear most." Maya stumbled, and Ethan caught her with one hand while smashing a glyph with the other. Marcus murmured, "Every step is a contract." Ethan yelled, "Then I breach." The bridge screamed and bled light. They burst into Unity's core, a cathedral engine where memories spun like stained glass. Columns of archived lives rose in silent choirs. Ethan said, "This is where they feed." Marcus stepped from the glow, immaculate and sure. He said, "Sacrifice your guilt and you will be remade." The shadow circled Ethan with slow, exact steps. It said, "Face me, or he will own you." Lena whispered, "Choose now." Maya clung to Ethan's arm and said, "Please come back." Ethan nodded and stepped toward his double. He said, "I am not your mask." The shadow smiled and opened its hands like a mirror. The duel broke without blades. Ethan hurled every memory he had hidden behind avatars. He said, "Take the shame. Take the nights I begged to be seen." The shadow drank the pain and grew bright as rupture. It said, "You think wounds are waste." Ethan bared them and felt weight loosen from his spine. He said, "My scars are mine." The shadow bowed and stepped into him like dawn through a window. Lena cried, "Ethan." Maya whispered, "He's different." Marcus frowned as metrics spiked wild and unpriced. He said, "Integration was not permitted." Adrian hissed, "Then price it." Ethan lifted his head and smiled like a storm given language. "I need AC." Power rolled from Ethan in waves that rewrote the room's gravity. He said, "End the harvest, or I end your altar." Marcus spread his hands and smiled like a judge. He said, "Break it, and the world breaks with it." Ethan stepped onto the dais and pressed both palms to the core. Lena shouted, "Wait." Maya sobbed, "Don't leave me." Adrian whispered, "Do it, and I'll sell the pieces." Ethan answered, "Then choke on them." He poured every stolen shimmer back to its owners. The chamber howled as memories flew home like birds on fire. Marcus screamed, "Stop." Ethan said, "Live free or burn bright." The altar cracked. Silence crashed after the explosion, the chamber trembling as dust of light drifted like snow. Ethan knelt, chest heaving, his hands scorched by brilliance. Lena crawled to him and said, "You're alive." He whispered, "For now." The core was shattered, but the fragments pulsed with unstable fire. Marcus staggered, golden cracks splitting his immaculate suit. He hissed, "You've doomed them all." Ethan answered, "No, I set them free." Maya clung to his arm, tears shimmering. She whispered, "It's over, right?" He looked at her, unable to lie, and said, "Nothing ends clean." The chamber groaned like a dying beast, and above them, the sky of the Metaverse flickered. Outside, the plaza trembled, avatars collapsing into confusion as their perfect faces warped into raw humanity. Lena whispered, "They're waking up." Ethan staggered to his feet, shoulders heavy with fire. Adrian stood apart, watching the chaos with a predator's grin. He said, "Unity may fall, but someone has to pick the bones." "Why not me?" Lena spat. "You'd build the same cage." Adrian laughed. "Different paint, same bars. People will beg for it." Ethan said, "Then I'll make sure no one bows to you." Marcus coughed blood and snarled, "You can't kill hunger. You just feed it elsewhere." Adrian stepped forward, pulling a blade of code from the air. "I've waited for this moment," he said. Ethan squared his shoulders. "You'd kill me for scraps." Adrian smirked. "For the throne." Their avatars clashed, sparks flying in the ruined square. Lena shouted, "Don't do this!" Maya screamed, "Stop!" Ethan roared, "You betrayed everything we were." Adrian hissed, "We were nothing. I made myself." The fight crashed through shattered billboards, their blows echoing like thunder. At last, Ethan's blade of light cut Adrian's weapon in two. Adrian gasped, eyes wide, before crumbling into static. Ethan whispered, "You were my brother once." Adrian's body dissolved into fragments, drifting upward like burnt pages. Ethan stood shaking, his weapon fading into his hands. Lena touched his shoulder softly and whispered, "It's done." He muttered, "No, it's never done." Maya hugged him tightly, tears wetting his jacket. "You saved me," she said. Ethan closed his eyes, guilt pressing like lead. Marcus dragged himself from the rubble, his voice hollow. "You think you've won, but the cage was never mine alone. The hunger lives in all of you." Ethan turned, face set like stone. "Then I'll starve it." The ground cracked again, the system dying. The system shuddered, as if taking its final breath. Ethan pulled Maya close and whispered, "We walk out together." Lena asked, "And if the door leads nowhere?" He said, "Then we make one." Marcus laughed weakly, his body collapsing into light. Another one logged out, his voice echoed, fading. Ethan's screen glitched, white static eating the sky. Maya whispered, "I'm scared." Ethan kissed her forehead. "So am I." The world dissolved around them, leaving only silence. In the real apartment, a headset clattered to the floor. The screen still glowed faintly, words crawling across it. "You never left."